Lavecchia here with a special edition of the Armchair MBA. Okay, so now this is a little bit of a controversial topic. My next guest, who's in the green room, is about to join us. Chris sent me some information as it relates to O.J. Simpson and the mob. Now, I don't mean to roast Chris. Chris is a nice guy. I chatted with him, but I have my tinfoil hat just in case. Chris, welcome to the Armchair MBA. How you doing today, buddy?
Good. How's it going, Tom?
Good. If you can't laugh, you can't live. So, all right, let's jump right in. Okay. So, Chris is an investigative producer. He's been studying this for a while. And before Chris jumps in, just so you know, I don't take these things lightly. Scott Bernstein did a piece on this back in October. Also, the Miami News Times, amongst other bigger outlets. I didn't just kind of come on willy-nilly and say, hey, let's do this. So, Chris, let's start it off. Okay. So give us a little bit about the background of the guys you're going to mention in the Cavalcante family, Florida. Why don't you give the setup for us?
Sure. Yeah, appreciate it. Honored to be here. Thank you for the ability to talk to your fans. And I'm excited to talk to people in the mafia space because a lot of reporters, I've been dealing with this for about 5 years. This is a 5-year journey. And the last 3 years has been very amped up, and I've had a lot of crazy stuff happen. As you know, you work in this space too, and some of the people can really go off the rails really quick. And
correct,
they get angry in the ego and all this stuff. So basically,
that's not Faye Resnick, is it? That picture?
It depends. If it's with Nicole, that could be Denise or Faye. Yeah, there's a couple I have of Faye Resnick and Nicole. Yeah.
Anyway, if that's, I gotta look. If that's Faye Resnick and you have it like already there, that's brilliant. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but anyway, keep going.
Well, Faye Resnick's a big part of the story and about the cocaine debt and the cocaine angles of the mafia. So it's fitting you say her name. So basically, the story was I was approached years ago by a producer in Hollywood to meet Charlie. And I was also told about this guy named Joey Ippolito from the De Cavalcante crime family.
Jersey family, correct. Jersey Bates family.
Yeah. So, and their father was close to Sam the plumber, and there were all this brood of men. There were these multiple guys in the Ippolito family. Some are still alive, some died. So at first, I didn't really know what it was, and I became a producer, and I also became a kind of shopper of the story in Hollywood. That's how I met the families, the mob guys. There's other guys that I'm not going to talk about today, but there's other people involved. And Charlie had claimed that he's O.J. Simpson's murder accomplice from Brentwood, and it was about his life in the mafia, his life of crime, his father, stepdad, his family, how he knew Joey Ippolito, how he met him. They're all in Miami. Why are they all in Miami? Because of the cocaine, the heroin, the drugs. So it was this fascinating story, and I was close to them for a long time, and I wanted to help them because I thought it was a story that needed to be told.
Okay.
As I went down the rabbit hole, it got darker and darker. And just like any mob story, it starts to connect everywhere. You start to see Lucky Luciano and Meyer Lansky and the Jews and the Italians. It opens up this whole Pandora's box. So
just messing with you, Chris. Chris and I talked before. We have a good rapport.
Hey, look, let me say this. I accept any challenge. If anyone ever wants to debate me, bring it on.
Love it. All right.
Yeah. I mean, the tin hat, we can do whatever you want. But so I feel it's a story to be told, and people like you that have courage and find the mafia stuff interesting. I've basically stopped telling the story about O.J. Simpson. This is a story about the mob.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. So what we talk about, let's start off with, the mob angle. And I found it really interesting because it kind of fits in the narrative. I'm doing a lot on drugs and the mafia that's sort of kind of not told. Who were the Ippolito brothers, that were the Cavalcante guys? Who were they in Florida? And then first, how did they kind of get mixed up in the drug trade? Allegedly, of course.
Yeah, yeah. And look, people will have different opinions. I will
Yeah.
state what I know and how I see the story. Okay. Joseph Ippolito Sr. worked for Sam the Plumber de Cavalcante.
Correct.
They were very close to Meyer Lansky.
Correct.
A lot of people don't know that. The New Jersey mob was very close to Meyer. Meyer set up a whole operation with speedboats, racing boats. You had Ben Kramer, Jack Kramer, Bobby Sacenti, Apache. I could keep naming them. There's a lot of them. I know a lot of these guys too. And they used to use these speedboats to smuggle heroin and cocaine with the Colombians in Miami. And they would park these motherships in international waters.
Yeah.
And it's in Charlie's confession. He tells you how he rides in the boat.
And this was also in line with the Cocaine Cowboys, Sal Maluga and those guys. Okay.
They all know each other. They're all in on, they all murdered each other. Don Arano was murdered in 87, 86, I believe. Yeah. Don Arano was tied in. Don Arano, who was his best friend? George Bush.
Yeah. So now it gets a little trickier because the guy Roberts, and forgive me on his full name, but the guy Roberts,
Don Riccobono, his name's
not. That's the thing. So Roberts was he Escobar's guy? Whose guy was he?
He was mob.
But what I'm saying is he flew the planes in for who? Escobar or Griselda Blanco? I forget.
Both.
Okay. So he was one of him, Barry Seal. He was one of the high flyers that would send hundreds of millions of dollars of coke in his plane every year.
And he knows Joey Ippolito.
Here's my point. It turns out John Roberts, whatever his name is, turns out to be Riccobono, Sicilian of a mafia member and relatives of the Gambino family. You're trying to tell me he's not bringing in hundreds of millions of dollars a year in coke and calling his dad and his uncle and saying, hey, do you not want to make money? So I agree where the Italian angle gets deeper and deeper when you get into the Riccobono, Meyer Lansky allegedly. I'm in touch with his grandson. I would love for him to defend or deny, deny or confirm that the Genovese family was bigger than drugs and they let out. So keep going. So the speedboats, keep going.
So these guys do a front where they race boats on ESPN by day, and at night they race out to the motherships with the Colombians.
Yeah.
Now, guys like Eugene Hicks, Thomas Adams, they get murdered. They sold O.J. Simpson a boat. Why does O.J. know them? Why does O.J. know Joey Ippolito? Why does A.C. Cowlings bodyguard and drive Joey Ippolito? And a lot of these connections had to be made over a long time. This was a big secret of how Turnberry Isle, Don Sofer, after they killed Don Arano, somebody called up Don Sofer and goes, "You're next."
Wow.
And he skipped town for 2 days. Look it up. Okay.
So hold on. Joey Ippolito is somebody that is a known mobster, evidently is bigger in the coke trade than we thought. Because I never really had the Cavalcante family being that big into drugs in any level, but you're starting to kind of pierce that veil and say, hey, you know what? These guys were bigger into drugs. Why is that not as well known? It's almost like the mob is the best PR kind of agency. Right. It says we never got into drugs and we're kind of buying it hook, line, and sinker. Why do you think that is?
What I realized, I didn't know who Joey Ippolito was either. Yeah. I never heard his name.
Yeah.
I didn't know who Charlie Ehrlich was either. Okay. Once I started to do research over the years and I met other mob guys and family members, they keep this very secretive. They don't want to say OJ's name. They call it the big one. They won't say his name. They knew that it was a coke extortion that OJ flipped out on and took it way too far.
Well, we're gonna get there because I want to. Okay.
Yeah. No. Okay.
Okay. So first part of the unpacking is again, it shouldn't be like a big shocker, but the Cavs, the Genovese family, John Roberts, we're all kind of tied in with the cartel.
Yeah, I know.
What's that?
I know what you're getting at.
So we're kind of setting up the landscape. So I think we can all agree at this point and kind of say, hey, you know what? The Italian mob in Miami was bigger into drugs than we thought. Okay. Yeah. So that part is a little eye-opening and we can
But even going back, even if you go back to Meyer Lansky and Lucky Luciano, What did Lucky Luciano do? He imported heroin through Sicily.
Correct.
What was the French Connection about? The mob bringing in heroin. People don't even know that. They don't even make the connect. Carmine Galante. So John Gotti, Sammy the Bull. So the old guys like Castellano and some of the old school guys, we don't want any drugs. They're crackheads. They're going to flip on us. I get it. But behind their back, they did whatever they wanted to.
Correct. And there was a legacy of, a lot of these guys made their money. So a lot of guys got out of it. And then the younger guys said, you can't do that after they made their money. So dude.
Like,
so what's OJ's first tie-in to Ippolito? Is it direct, indirect? Let's start setting that up.
Sure. Okay. So I initially thought that Joey Ippolito and OJ Simpson only knew each other for about a year.
Okay.
From other sources that came to me, they've known each other since the 80s in Miami. And if you look at the heyday of the cocaine, that was the 70s and the 80s. You've seen the Cocaine Cowboys, and that's that time period. So I believe OJ knew Joey Ippolito and Don Sofer and all these guys at Turnberry Isle. He knew him for a long time, but nobody knew that. Joey was a magician. I'm going to say it right now. This guy was a magician. He was under the radar. There's only one set of footage known. It's in the movie Thunderman. It's a documentary where Joey Ippolito's in it. That's the only known footage of Joey anywhere. Okay? When he was dying of brain cancer. And he made a diary. I heard he has a diary that he talks about OJ and the murders. No one will let me see it. No one wants to show it. They're asking for a bunch of money. I don't have millions of dollars to give these people. So I've had to, but anyway, to answer your question is, Ippolito and AC Collins and OJ Simpson, they were into gambling, point shaving. There was a lot of NFL stuff. What do NFL guys like? Women, money, drugs. OJ was in the drug game in Buffalo with cocaine for many years. Butch Sukarski got murdered in Miami 2 weeks after the murders in Brentwood. What's up? He was OJ's good friend. And he told his friend, oh, I owe the mob 50 grand. Fuck him. He was murdered.
So, okay. So this is interesting. And I did a little research again. Interesting with the Ippolitos. There was a thought prior to it happening, Joey was going to, flip. So they shot up the brother. The brother lived. The FBI was in the hospital with him. Like, why did they shoot you up? He was kind of a stand-up guy. He's like, well, ask my brother.
Ask my brother.
Out. So then obviously things kind of subsided. Joey did flip though, correct?
Yes, he did.
Okay. But so here's the thing. I want to give this story and want to be as open-minded, as I can. Right. But then when Joey did his 302s or Joey ratted or whatever he did, right? Wouldn't it have been that a great time to talk about the OJ killing and then him come clean on that? Why didn't he, in your opinion?
Well, okay, so now there's a published article right after the murders that says Joey Ippolito made a bunch of phone calls to Rockingham. And they tied the connection. I think I sent it to you. You could Google it.
Yeah.
They had this thing called Operation Lassima, LA Sicilian Mafia. A guy by the name of Robert Franke, who was Fat Ralphie, was his real name, from the New England mob, set up Joey Ippolito and Ronnie Lorenzo for a bunch of kilos of coke.
Okay.
Joey gets busted in like 92. It's a 3-year sting. Okay. As it's going on, this is where he flips. He gets sentenced to 10 years in like 93. This is months before the murders. He goes to Pensacola and he flips and they let him out. He's loose in May of 94. He turns informant. Even his brothers told me that Joey had ratted out people before and he used to rob people. Mob guys, civilians. I know a guy had a gun stuck in his mouth from Joey Ippolito. And on Joey's deathbed, he goes up to him and he goes, Joey, I got to ask you before you die. Did you set me up? I don't want to talk about it. I'm dying. So
I'm with you. But what I'm saying is, like, so you got Sammy the Bull, Mike Francis. You have a lineage of guys that were inducted members or made members that wind up, flipping, right? So you kind of answered it, but you didn't. It just would have been easier for him to raise his hand and just be like, you know what? And also when you flip, you have to disclose, A, B, C, and D, because if you don't and you lie about it, your agreement gets ripped up and you go to jail.
Well,
why would he risk not talking about it?
Well, let's stay on the timeline.
Okay.
So the murders didn't happen yet. So he's already flipped. He's already jumped bail. The FBI lets him out. He turns informant against coke dealers in the mob. Now here comes June, right? And Joey's in LA. And he sends Charlie to Rockingham at 10:15 p.m. to go get a bunch of money from O.J. Simpson. It's an extortion. It's not a debt. It's a setup. Okay. Now, so the murders happen. Let's jump ahead of that. So the answer to your question is Joey can't flip on Charlie. Joey can't flip on OJ. He's going to get Charlie put in jail for life. He's going to ruin OJ's chances. OJ gets off. He doesn't need any help. You see what I'm saying? So
hey, hold on. This is going to get fun. Brian has never been on the show. Welcome, Brian. You want?
Hey, how you doing?
Very well. You seem like a guy in the know. Are you new to my show, or you know my show for a little bit?
Nah, I've been watching it since you were with Armchair and
Easy.
when you were doing it with John Panisi. Yeah, I started watching you, and I've seen a lot of your stuff since, and yeah, for maybe a couple of years.
Awesome. So
I never called in before.
No worries.
So,
you're welcome.
Can I just say one?
Yeah, please. I don't know if you should wear this. Not wear this. Help us out, Brian.
Yeah, I just want to say this guy is the only guy that I've ever heard, besides, on the internet when you dig through these stories, that actually know what's going on, man. Nice to meet you too.
Cool,
because but I'm still, listen, I knew OJ from about 2000 to right before he went to Vegas, which he asked me to go to Vegas. And a friend of mine, I used to have a sub shop in Fort Lauderdale called Gangster Subs. So he would come, whatever. We'd come to my uncle's restaurant. We'd hang out. I mean, crazy stories I could tell you about OJ. Never said anything about that incident. I didn't want to ask him, whatever, out all night. But Joe Bentley is what they used to call him when I met him, probably 2001. He was an informant back in like a long time ago, which I didn't know until I read after I knew the guy. And I know him. He had 2 little dogs. He was in Boca. But before that, this is when he died. I don't know how many years ago. Him and his wife. He looked horrible, Joe. Joe looked horrible, man. He was a shell of himself. He had like no hair. He was thin. I think he had brain
cancer.
Right. I mean, the last time I saw him was maybe 2007 ish, 8.
He died
I don't know. It's been years.
Yeah, right around there. Yep.
Or maybe was it 06? Okay, maybe it was 06. Right before he died, man. He looked horrible. He came to the restaurant I was working at.
Wow.
But anyway, Joe used to move drugs, allegedly, in all these cars. He used to sell cars, lease high expensive cars right by the Fort Lauderdale airport, like Hummers, blah, 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 rappers. So they used to call him Joe Bentley when I met him. Then I found out later on when I started to become friends with him who he was. And they said he was an informant. He did 10 years, but then he ratted. That's why he got 10 years for weed or something.
The name,
but
the name Bentley, I won't say the name of the person. The other person used to use that name too. That was very close to him. And you're connecting some dots here that I never knew. So I appreciate
I don't even know that guy, to be honest with you. He was very close with a guy that I own a restaurant I worked for that's kind of like my uncle. We had a falling out, so I don't want to mention his name.
Sure.
But he was like good friends with Joey. And then all of a sudden we became friends with OJ, and it was just nuts, OJ had a big body.
Let me ask you a question. Was OJ knowingly talking to Joey still then?
Yeah, 2005, 2004, absolutely.
Yeah.
Joe used to have be bald and have long hair in the back. And then all of a sudden, after a while, obviously he had no hair. He was sick. But yeah, no, he was around. They were around. That's how I met him. He brought him to the restaurant in 01. So that's way after the murders. So 94.
Well, that's what I'm saying. See, they still kind of knew each other.
But nobody brought this up in the trial. I don't think the FBI wanted to bring the mob and all this shit into the trial.
Nope.
They just buried it. I read. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to. I never heard anybody that actually knew what's going on.
No, listen. I'm glad you're saying these things because you're connecting the dots for the audience that Joey Ippolito knows O.J. Simpson. First of all,
Are you kidding? Okay. That's how I met O.J. Simpson. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And why are they still friends? And how does Charlie Ehrlich know Joey Ippolito and OJ? See, this
I
is
don't
a
know.
big
I never.
secret.
Right.
This is the biggest one. This is the big mob one besides JFK. When the mob
I don't know
got-
Charlie, and
Well, it's all good. He's in Miami too. You may have seen him, but look, man, I appreciate you calling in. If you have any questions or you want to add something, go for it.
And Brian, really quick, I just want to two things and reestablish. Number one is, the Cavalcantes are generally out of Elizabeth.
Sorry. Good.
Yeah, the Cavalcantes are generally out of Elizabeth, New Jersey. Sam moved down there, then Ricky took over. But like contacts that I have that I called before the story was, as far as I know, none of the Cavs were that big into drugs. Francesco Polizzi was involved with the pizza connection. I just got to stop my camera because my kid's here. So there is some evidence, but you kind of bringing some light on. Wow, yeah, maybe they were bigger into coke than I thought. So one, is that something you're comfortable agreeing with, or no?
I don't know. I used to be into that stuff. Allegedly, I'm not anymore. I've been sober for about over 2 years now.
God
So
bless. Okay.
I can tell you.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I can tell you what I'm not gonna. Yeah, OJ was definitely into that. I'll tell you that. So I really, if he wants to, nobody wants to. Definitely, that was his thing.
The number two is you could confirm, which you kind of did, that Ippolito at the very least knew OJ fairly decent.
He knew. He introduced me to him. He brought him to the restaurant to eat.
I'm just reiterating.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
So when later on, people ask
he
me
can't wear that tin hat anymore.
Now I got to crumple it up and throw it out. Brian, listen. Thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for coming on. Don't be a stranger.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you, Brian.
Hey, pleasure to meet you guys. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye bye.
Okay, so listen, maybe it's not as crazy as we thought.
That's beautiful.
Okay, now let's go to the scene of the crime. What allegedly happens on the night of the incident?
Yeah, and also I wanted to make a quick comment about, look, we could talk about like how much drugs did the mob deal, and look, it's kind of important, but like you said too, that leads us up to the murders. The more important aspect is that the mafia set these wheels in motion, and actually one of their enforcers murdered Ron and Nicole with OJ Simpson. Wow. That's the story. So
okay, so you and I discussed it briefly on the phone. Allegedly, Ehrlich links up with OJ, and what happens next that night?
Okay, so Ehrlich meets OJ about 3 months before the murders. They're dealing drugs, they're fronting, they're doing other people. OJ's bringing clients to them, football players, athletes, actors. OJ's getting kickdowns from this. He's getting kickbacks. That's in the confession. That's already stated. And that's also in the screenplay that the lawsuit's about in Miami. It's already in there. It tells you how Joey knew Faye Resnick, Nicole Brown, how he was there with them, fronting them a bunch of drugs. Well, it was time to pay up on June 12th. And if you mix all these things together, Joey's going to jail, jumps bail, flips on the FBI. They're ready to murder him. They probably seized his assets, right? So he's got no money. He's in a tough predicament. And look, Joey, it's fate, man. It's just fate. Okay, there's so many things to it, I can't explain it. Joey sends Charlie over to OJ's on Sunday night, June 12th at around 10:15 p.m. and says, go get my fucking money from all of them. But OJ's the one you're going to blackmail because he's the one who's got the money, A, and he's the one who's got everything to lose. No one knows who Faye Resnick is. No one knows Nicole Brown Simpson or Ron Goldman. Okay, they know OJ. And
this boy, he's still doing Hertz commercials. He's still OJ at this point.
Huge. He was huge. He carried the torch in the Olympics. There's a lot of, he was like Michael Jordan in football in the 70s almost. Besides a couple guys. There's a couple of them. Okay. So on the night of the murders, Charlie shows up. I don't want to say if there's somebody else with him. Just let's take it baby steps. Let's not blow people's minds out of their body. Charlie shows up, maybe with someone else, and says, OJ, we got to get that money. What's the problem? Joey sent me. Joey, so OJ's like, wait, Joey's my friend. Why are you doing this to me? Why are you squeezing me? That's the name of the screenplay. It's called Squeeze. Why are you squeezing me? Well, Joey has bosses, and the bosses want to get paid. This is verbatim in the confession. And I know things from Charlie too. But so OJ's like, OJ flips out. He goes nuts. He's going to throw the golf club into the Bentley. He's chipping golf balls. He's waiting for a limo. This is not premeditated. Marsha Clark was wrong. It's not premeditated. He's leaving. His bags are packed on the bench. Charlie just shows up at the worst time, which was probably planned because they think there was a guy at Nicole's house setting them off that she's home. She got home at like 9. Oh, you're muted. You're muted. Yeah.
Sorry, I was muted because my
Sorry.
kids.
Yeah.
So I can digest this, right?
Yeah.
Hey, I need my money. Goes to OJ. OJ, you know how mob guys are. I just want to go. Whoever has the money.
Yeah.
OJ's like, screw this. Let's go get the money. So when they went to Nicole Brown Simpson's house, they were looking for Faye Resnick and essentially saying, "Listen, we need some cash."
So you're getting a combination. It's a deadly cocktail, right? So Charlie sets OJ off like a time bomb. They're at Rockingham. They're like 2 miles away from Bundy. So OJ says to Charlie, no, the real problem is that bitch Faye and Nicole. We're putting it on them, not me. This is where OJ made his mistake, right here. This was his moment of truth. He should have just got on his plane and went to Chicago. But instead, he looked at his watch and he goes, I had just enough time to go read Nicole the Riot Act. He says it in his book. He says it in his interview. He tells you in 06, he had an accomplice. You didn't listen. You didn't want to listen. And that's really the story. So they say, as OJ says, we get in the Bronco and we go over. We, Charlie and OJ and this other guy, if he exists, whatever. Charlie goes with OJ to Rockingham. And there's Ron Goldman. And there's Nicole out front by the gate. And the rest is history.
Well, there's definitely was more than one person there. I don't care what anybody says. There was more than one person.
Well, it's OJ and Charlie for sure. If there's another person, I have 2 sources that say there is, but they're playing weasel games. I want a bunch of money, so fuck them. Right now.
Okay. So again, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you up to this point. But now OJ, this happens, right? They die, goes on the plane, all this stuff happens. And just give me a second. I got a little one. I don't know. No. My daughter's literally
I love it. I love it. It's like that.
Yeah, she's literally just like under the couch.
No, it's fine.
Like
she's there for a reason, man. She likes what's going on.
So sorry, guys. Nevertheless, I can digest this. I can unpack this. I can filter this. I'm with you all in, right? But then when he gets arrested, OJ is not taking a blood oath. OJ doesn't care about the mob. He can go into witness protection. He's got Hollywood protection. Why didn't OJ flip on Ehrlich when he got arrested?
Well, because if OJ flips on Ehrlich, that means he did it too. And nobody's going to give him a deal when he just cut 2 people's heads off practically. He has no.
Yeah, but look at the mob. I mean, they freaking gave Sammy the Bull friggin' 20 murders.
Yeah, but hold on. Who's the bigger fish? OJ or Charlie? Nobody knows Charlie.
True.
OJ kills Nicole. It's OJ's knife. There's 2 knives on Ron Goldman, a single edge and a double edge. And what's the mantra from the mob? The Black Hand taught its members the way of the stiletto. Yeah. That's a saying. No, I'm serious, because this is how I tell the story. Yeah. This is how I tell the story. So there's 2 knives, there's 2 killers. OJ can't flip. Charlie can't flip on OJ because he did it too. So there's, and look, and I know it's hard. Hindsight's 2020. OJ gets off. He gets acquitted. So does Charlie. They don't need to flip on anybody. They got the dream scenario, man.
Okay, we'll do the poll. Do we believe this guy?
Are you God? Can you turn back the hands of time? No.
Exactly.
Anyone wants to debate? Oh, my email is investigatorla19@gmail.com. Investigatorla19@gmail. Write me anytime. I'll show you the confession. I'm leaking everything.
Okay, so let's see. OJ seems like, yeah, but that's the thing though. So like, I'm with you on maybe he was a bigger fish. Marcia Clark wasn't like, OC is not as big in LA, so I could see it wasn't as sexy. Getting OJ convicted is much bigger for a career than maybe some wise guy out of Florida who's half dying. I'm with you on all those, right? But then Ehrlich, for example, didn't he also flip?
Well, do you want to answer that question too about first of all, OJ's not quick to say anything. OJ's kept this a farce for 12 years at first. He didn't say a word. And then 12-year mark in 06, he comes forward, and guess who dies in 06? Joey Ippolito. Huh, that's weird. So when Ippolito's gone, OJ writes a book called If I Did It. And in chapter 6, he says, there was this guy named Charlie with me. That's weird. That's his real name. He just doesn't say his last name. So he's been messing with people's heads for years. But also, think if you committed a murder. I'll ask your friend there who wrote the question. Let's say you committed a murder with somebody. You're going to go run to the cops and go, hey, I just murdered these two people, but he did it. They're going to be like, you're going to jail, bro. You just confessed. On both of you guys, you're both going in. There's no deal to cut. Sammy the Bull told on a generation of mobsters, a history of people. This was a spontaneous murder, the biggest trial of the century, biggest murder case in modern history. You're going to go run to the cops and go, I did it? Come on.
Right.
Get your, it's like.
All right. So now, but then Charlie Ehrlich sued the newspaper when they broke the story that he may have been there. So there was somebody other than you kind of like laid the groundwork and said, Charlie was there. Charlie was involved. Again, so remember, guys, so this is where it gets interesting and the mob stuff comes in. Not only was he an associate of the Cavalcante family, but also a strong associate of the Genovese family, right? Which is very prominent in South Florida at the time. Now, it comes out, hey, Charlie did it, Charlie did it, Charlie did it. He could have had a sweetheart deal. He could have rolled on OJ. He could have got the big book. He could have got the big advance. So why is he denying and suing and saying I didn't do it and fighting the Miami News Times when he could have even just said, hey, he did it and roll an OJ and become pretty famous as a result?
Well, that's what he's doing. See, that lawsuit's not what you think it is. That's not a lawsuit against a journalist. That's a lawsuit to stoke flames. That's to draw the reporters to him. I already know that. See, your people don't know that. So it looks like this is the beauty of the mob. This is why they made billions of dollars for 100 years. They're smart. They're like snakes. So that lawsuit, he's not going to go to court. Oh, he's going to be deposed? Where were you on June 12th, 94 when I have 3 witnesses say you were in LA that night? What's up? Oh, I was in Miami. No, you weren't. Prove it. And so it's not what you think it is. And he is trying to tell the story. He is writing a book. There's a tape. There's a confession tape. It's 10 hours long.
All right. So I know, I know you a little bit. We talked a little bit. You gave me your background. We'll not obviously disclose it. But, this is something that Hollywood eats up. This is something that somebody want to make a movie, that kind of stuff. Why hasn't this been picked up from the Hollywood perspective?
Because Hollywood's a fraud. Because Hollywood's a ruse. They don't do anything real. Everything is fake to them. So if I already went to Hollywood. I work in Hollywood for 20 years. They all know me. They all know the story. I've shown a bunch of people the story and the idea. They don't want to do it because OJ's like the Pope in LA. That story makes a lot of money. You're talking about flipping it on its head. They'd rather tell a Norman Pardo story. Glenn Rogers did it. Jason Simpson did it. They're going to use all these fake stories. They'd rather do that, man, than say, who's Charlie? Like, the truth is scary. It's like JFK. I always talk about JFK with this. They don't want to know the truth. Okay. They don't want to know the truth on JFK. They don't really want to know the truth. They'll say Grassy Knoll. They'll talk about the mob. They'll talk about Marcello, and they'll talk about Lee Harvey. They don't want the truth. That's why they made the files. They couldn't release them for 75 years. They don't want them to know. Now, in the civilian world, in the O.J. Simpson thing, they don't want to know the truth. That O.J. did it and he had help and you all missed. You all messed up. The LAPD missed. The lawyers missed. The public missed. But let's give O.J. some credit and Charlie. They came forward in 06 and wrote a book called If I Did It and made an interview with Judith Regan and told you he was there. They told you.
What was okay, so you're offering, your thought, on what happened. What were some alternative theories outside of, so we had the mob angle and again, there's a certain level of plausibility. You're kind of building it up. I'll leave it up for the viewers to decide. You had, by himself, you had his son, you had, what are some alternate theories that are also?
So yeah, I know every theory there is. Okay? I know everything about the story. I know every conspiracy theory. Okay, the main one was Jason Simpson did it. His son, total bullshit.
Yeah,
I'm surprised he didn't sue Discovery.
Wasn't that his mom? Or that was
no, it's his stepmom. Stepmom.
Got it. Why would he kill his stepmom?
That's what I'm saying. It's all these people just come up with shit, man. They're trying to grab their own little fame. Guys like Bill Deere and Norman Pardo, they're trying to say these things. Dodi Fayed did it. They make Santa Claus, fucking Glenn Rogers. First of all, Glenn Rogers, the serial killer, was not in LA till a year later. He was not even in LA. So they lied about he was a serial killer and Glenn Rogers did it and his brother said bullshit. Wasn't even in LA. So all the theories are bullshit.
So I spoke with Chris. He knows the show. He knows that, I don't do this stuff willy-nilly. I did investigate 8 different articles for reference. I'm not asking you to believe, I'm not asking you to disbelieve. But what are some of and I'll post some articles in the description. What are some of the references you can point to that's public so people that want to kind of go down this rabbit hole can investigate this a little further?
Read OJ's book, If I Did It. Read chapter 6, The Night in Question. Watch the Judith Regan interview on Fox. It's on YouTube for free. Listen to OJ tell you there was a guy named Charlie with me. Charlie brought the knife, and Charlie followed this guy in. Somebody's got to get rid of the bloody clothes. I mean, what are you going to do with them?
What was the relationship with Charlie and OJ after the trial, and how are they now, as far as you know?
They disappear from each other for 5 years. That's in the confession. They don't talk, not once. So after the acquittal, Charlie's in Miami, never comes back to LA ever again. They do not talk for 5 years. After the 5 years, they start to relink. And guess where O.J. Simpson moves to? Miami.
Now, what in Charlie's confession, he doesn't confess to the Nicole murder, does he?
Charlie confesses to being with O.J. in the crime scene at the murders.
After he was found innocent.
What do you mean in his confession?
No, Charlie's confession. That I know you sent it to me. I didn't get that. I did not have enough time to read because you sent me a lot.
No. He didn't come. Charlie came forward in 2017 to.
Okay. Correct. Okay. What do you say?
He never came forward before that. OJ did with him.
No, correct. So Charlie's confession. What did he say in his confession?
Says that he rides in the Bronco with O.J. Simpson on June 12th and rides over to the murder scene and is with O.J. at the murders and gets rid of the knife, the shoes, and the clothes for O.J. Simpson.
And I'm guessing Charlie, as being an informant, would be credible because he obviously, you can't come forward. Well, you can give false information.
O.J. has double jeopardy. You can't do anything to O.J. There's nothing to do to O.J. So you can't rat OJ out. There's nothing. Would Charlie rat himself out? Kind of. Look, when they came to me, they said he was dying. Okay. Well, Joe Bonanno said he was dying too. And he lived 17 more years.
Wow.
So I don't know if he was dying or not, I think it's a money thing, and I think it's a secretive thing. Like, before I die, and he said he hated OJ. He said after the Vegas robbery, Charlie lost 200 grand because he had to hire a lawyer on that Vegas robbery. He felt like OJ set him up. So when he came to the producers, he said, I hate OJ Simpson, and I want to tell you a story. And that's it.
Who's saying at JFK's wedding and his inauguration and funeral? Sinatra, maybe?
Tom asked Chris, who's saying at JFK's wedding?
Sinatra, maybe?
At his inauguration and funeral.
Marilyn Monroe?
Maybe. Well, Marilyn Monroe is the happy birthday.
Oh, yeah. We got to find that out. All right, let me ask you this. We're going to wrap it up. I put a link one more time. If somebody doesn't come in on a minute, we're going to wrap it up. And
if anybody wants to chat in the future, you want to do a follow-up, I'm open to doing it. There's a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes. So there's the lawsuit, there's the publishing, there's another guy leaking stuff. There's other people that they want to kind of string up Charlie, kind of fry his ass. So
let me ask you this, because I'd like to continue this if there's more credible stuff.
Yeah.
Any chance we can get Charlie on this show?
If you want to talk to him, everyone knows where he is. He works at a strip club. You want to call him, go ahead. I don't want people showing him this stuff. If he sees it organically, cool. But remember, you think he's going to talk to you for free? You got $2 million, he'll talk to you. We already have him quoted at 2 million. So if you want to talk to him, you can. If you want to say, hey, I think you have a great story. Look, he's kind of a nice guy. A lot of the mob guys they have a duality. They're super cool sometimes, and they're super asshole the other. So if you want to talk to him, I can't stop you from talking to him.
Yeah. No, I mean, I would think, don't get me wrong, if he was going to get paid on something like this, it would have happened already. That would be my argument. And number two, I would like to think sometimes when you're in a smaller forum like this, you get what is called an elephant bump. Other bigger outlets pick it up, and then maybe he can get the money that he needed. Hey, Brian, welcome back. Yeah. I think Brian's back. Brian, can you hear me?
A lot of people have reached out to Charlie, just to be honest. A lot of people, Fox did, the National Enquirer did, A360 Media, Radar. A lot of people reached out to him. He snowballs you quickly. He's not going to talk about June 12th, because if he says anything about June 12th, he's going to jail. He's never going to say it to you. That's why they wrote his script with other people. They made his tape with other people. He's not going to, it's a money play. It's a business deal. So he's not going to frag himself for free. That's why he did the lawsuit also, was he kind of got butt hurt that, whoa, who's leaking all my stuff? What's going on? Like, why does everybody know about it? And I made $0.
Interesting. All right. So this is obviously, and again, guys, for those that, I do try my best to report the best I could in full fairness. This was picked up by the Miami News Times. This is just one of like 6 articles that I looked on before. I'm a big Scott Bernstein fan. I did not get a chance to reach out to Scott about this. Maybe we could do a follow-up. Brian, welcome back, buddy. Can you hear us? Careful driving, buddy. Brian, can you hear us? You're on.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We're about to wrap up. So
can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, man. Shit. Sorry, man. I'm trying to get in.
No worries. Take your time. Hold on. Can you hear us okay?
A little bit.
Okay, we got to
try back in. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah. I'm going to remove you. Come back in. Okay. Yeah, we'll see what Brian has to say. And then, all right. Hold on. He's back already. Hold on. That's quick. Oh, he's in a bad spot. He's getting the buffering. If this dude would have done it, OJ would have been relentless bringing it forward. Yeah.
Well, we already answered that question. Stop talking about what OJ's thinking. Just focus on that he has an accomplice. Everyone does this. They try to put all these, just stop. Just look at lose the tin hat, focus on, look to God more, look to fate and destiny, because OJ already beat everybody. So did Charlie. You're not going to beat him. I have the kryptonite. I didn't bring it with me. I didn't bring the materials. There's a murder book. There's a screenplay. There's a book. There's a tape. You guys want it? We can do it, but to come forward. I'm not giving them money to come forward. So
yeah. Well, a lot of times too, when you get paid for those type of stories, they tend to have.
Yeah, that's what the reporter. We don't pay for stories. It's like, okay,
Oh,
sure.
they do. Yeah, they pay.
Well, I mean, they made Goodfellas, didn't they? They made The Irishman. They didn't pay each other. It's like, that's what I'm saying. Hollywood and all this stuff, it's just a ruse, man. They're all like, ESPN was going to have us on, and they said, we don't pay for stories. And I said, well, yeah, that benefits you. It doesn't benefit Charlie.
Oh no, the documentaries are. That's what they do. Documentaries, because then you can have a budget. It's a little bit more. I know the game. Trust me. All right. Did they interview? I'm assuming David Lovitz has a question. Did they interview witnesses from the restaurants, waiters, customers? I'm assuming they interviewed all these people, right?
Of course. And they came forward and said they knew Joey Ippolito was at Mezzaluna. And they told him, and the cop said,
he was there?
He used to go to Mezzaluna all the time. I have a guy who worked at Mezzaluna. He dated Nicole. I go, did you know Joey Ippolito? Yeah. And when he said it, I did like a double take. I thought he was going to say no. He goes, yeah, of course I knew Joey. I go, whoa, hold up. Hold up. Which Mezzaluna was in? All of them. Aspen, Brentwood, Beverly Hills, dealing coke.
The brothers are in New Jersey now, but they're out of the life as far as we know.
Well, I mean, they're 80 years old. I mean, one's younger. The guy wrote a book, Just One More Load. You can read it. I read it. It's not bad. I know the guy. I've met Joey's brothers a couple times, and so is my partner.
They don't cover the OJ part in there, right?
They write me. One guy wrote me back with a money sign next to it. I said, hey, will you come forward? And he sent me a big dollar bill sign. So they know they'll come forward. That's what I'm trying to tell you, Tom. This is the big one. This isn't, you're not going to just go poke around and they're going to be like, yeah, I'll go talk to you. Yeah, exactly. They're not, Louis Ippolito and Sammy Ippolito are not just going to jump on your show and be like, yeah, my brother caused the murders in 94.
Yeah. No, I get that.
Anyway.
I get that. Well, listen, Brian, I guess he's having a hard time getting on. If you're listening, you can email me, Tom, a new theory. I can get you in touch with Chris. You know what? I'm going to keep an open mind here. I think the poll has it at 50-50. Interesting enough, 50-50 as being, wow, a little higher than I thought, to be honest with you.
Well, you know what, to be honest, too, is I'm glad you're doing the show. Let me say this. When these people actually look at the stuff and actually their paradigm shifts, and now they know he had an accomplice, go watch the trial again. Go listen to Dr. Henry Lee, Dr. Michael Baden, Dr. Irwin Golden. They all say there's two knives. Why? Go watch, go listen to the experts. We're not Baden. We're not coroners. If they say there's two knives, there are.
Interesting. So I'm going to keep an open mind. Chris and I are in contact.
Buddy.
If there's any relevant information anybody has on this Tom and New theory, Chris is an investigative producer. We're going to keep an open mind. This may be an ongoing thing and may not. And Chris, I'll leave you with the closing statements before we conclude.
I did this for Ron Goldman. And I did this partially for Nicole Brown Simpson. This is for Ron Goldman. I found a connection to him. We had a lot of similarities. I was him. I was a kid like him. I was a tennis player. I was a dancer. I was an actor. I got caught up in the game too. And so did he. So
Brian's back just in the nick of time. Sorry. Okay.
And
Brian,
it's for all of us too. Yeah.
Brian, you okay? Oh, wow.
He's got something to say, man. He's got something. What is it, Brian?
I think the CIA is jamming his signal. Can you hear it? Can you hear us, Brian?
He's trying to get something out.
Big G gave a nice contribution. Thank you. Nice, I talked to, I'm big on, like, listen, if I can look at 5 or 6 reputable pieces, which I did, I like Chris. He has good intentions. He's coming on here. He's giving some stuff. Whoever reaches out to me, Tom, a new theory, I'll make the connection appropriately to Chris. You can have a dialogue with him. You know, Brian.
Wait a second. Can I talk with the silver Mercedes, Charlie?
Brian, you can hear us? May not be in the cards, Brian. We'll stay on.
That happens to me a lot too. My phone gets disconnected when I talk to people. They'll drop the call. It happens a lot, man. People don't want it to happen. So a lot of times I don't think for 1 minute that anyone did those murders. Wait, what was that last question?
Yeah.
I don't think for 1 minute that anyone did those murders apart from O.J. Simpson. Well, you're wrong. And if you want to talk to me, come to me. Come talk to me.
Shots fired.
Because I battle. No, man. Because I'll tell you, to be honest, I'm putting the hammer down. So if anybody wants to say it's bullshit, come to me. You have my email. Let's do it. I'll go on any of your channels and I will debate you live anytime for free. So don't throw up these things like, oh, OJ did it himself. Like, you guys don't even know the trial. You don't know the evidence. You don't know Charlie. You don't know the Ippolitos. So, and I'm not trying to be a jerk. They've given a lot of pulpits to these fake stories. So I'm coming like a sledgehammer and a wrecking ball.
Yeah, but you know what's interesting about this? And Big Guy, Big G, thank you so much. Chris is a good guy, and thank you for the contribution. That was very nice. I'm going to put my email here. I don't want to put Chris's publicly, but I'm going to connect you guys and okay. Have a conversation. One thing I'm a little fascinated by, and I think this is a compliment. This seems like raw and still real to you, but a lot of time has passed. Do you kind of go like peaks and troughs and you're in a high right now? Or were you dormant and now you're jumping? Or are you always this high energy? Because I would have got tired if I were you. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I have a lot of energy. People that know me, I do. I'm very passionate about the stories I do. I work some very famous murder cases. I got called scum. I was in other lawsuits. It only fuels me. I will say, the first time I ever met Charlie, the first time I ever read the screenplay, heard the tape, parts of it, because they don't let you hear the end, which I understood. They didn't want me to hear the end of the tape. I will say this, I froze. I never saw anything like it. It brought me all the way back to 94. And anyone that kind of goes down it, if you ever were to talk to Charlie, read the screenplay, read some of his book, of his excerpts, you will be frozen in place. You will not believe it. I didn't either. So I understand your audience. I didn't believe it either. It took me 2 years to believe it. In the last recent couple years, I gave Charlie a chance. I gave the other producers a chance to come forward. A guy went to the LAPD. They contacted me. I met with them. And I think, Charlie, come forward. OJ, come forward. They already know you did it. You're going to die in a couple years. Your kids know you did it. Everyone knows you did it. Let Charlie come into the fold too. It's a great story. Yeah. It's shocking. But hey, man, let's mix it up. There's a lot of garbage stories out there, man. This would be a really cool thing. So I appreciate it for you too, man.
Yeah, and I appreciate the fact that you came on. I'm going to put the links to the articles below. Leave a comment below on your opinion. This is kind of like, although it's an older story, developing story, if anything relevant pops up, Chris, you have my word that we're going to follow it. And thank you for being on the Armchair MBA, brother.
Thank you. Good luck with your show. I love your show. Thank you to all the audience members too.
Thank you.